I'd like to move now and take a closer look at the knowledge economy. Increasingly, countries are looking at themselves relative to the extent to which they produce new knowledge. They see the production of knowledge and their knowledge economy is really locked into their future, particularly in this modern age. And universities in particular make an argument with their governments for funding based upon their contribution to the knowledge economy. Indeed, I think in Canada there's a strong sentiment that probably the major producer of knowledge would be the universities. And if you take a look, for example, at a university like the University of British Columbia, but I'm sure other universities are doing similar things, they're making their case, and they're going back to a keen sort of concept of that he argued that the investment in an organization like a university should give a return at least twice of what was invested in it in terms of the economy. The analyses that I've seen done of UBC suggest that they go far beyond that, actually. That they actually give a return to the local economy as a result of meetings taking place, people coming through the city, but also in terms of the preparation of people with new technologies and whatnot, which is tenfold. And if you look at documents at UBC, you'll see that they're constantly scrutinizing what's actually going on in terms of the university's generation of discoveries, certainly publications of journal articles, research findings in key journals, particularly peer-reviewed journals, blind peer-reviewed journals, and various other elements. And I thought I'd give you a sort of a sense of some of the things that a university like UBC looks at, and so you can get a sense of what they're aspiring to, what they set out for their institution, and how those things may relate to for example, one's life as a faculty member. But certainly it does have huge consequences in terms of how the university is perceived by the government as role and the funding that arises. For example, at UBC, and I just took 2 years of data to give you a sense of how they'd be looking at it. They'd be looking at the research dollars that are generated. And in 2006 and 2007, there was around 400 mil that was generated. In 2007, 2008, about 470 mil. In terms of inventions, they assessed the number of inventions that were made across their research program and other things within the university at around about 170 across both years. In terms of patents applied for, I think UBC is sort of 9th globally in terms of patents that they have. It's one of the, for a public university, it's one of the highest. It's around 260 in 2006 and a little less in 2007 and 2008. And then there are licensing agreements they make with companies related to some of the discoveries that are made and so on. It's interesting, a lot of the dollars that they generate for research actually comes out of federal funding, but some comes out of corporate funding as well, but nowhere near as much. I think it's probably around maybe less than 10% typically. What's also interesting, and this is something or other that universities all over the world aspire to, within Canada, UBC is considered to be one of the best incubators of industry. And as they develop these discoveries, apply for the patents, they'll often spin it off into a separate company. A company that wasn't such a large company, but Blackboard came out of UBC. Some major pharmaceutical discoveries led to major spin-offs. One that spun off, I think, was sold off for $500 million. But you can get a sort of a sense of the magnitude of the spin-offs and the extent to which UBC is integrated into a knowledge economy. As I've said, in terms of patents, UBC is ranked about 9th in the world in terms of UBC making an argument for its contribution to the knowledge economy. In Canada, it would be, I think it's surpassed University of Toronto presently. So you can sort of start to see the whole concept of the knowledge economy and how it works. And as part of the knowledge economy, you find universities vying with each other, involved in almost a sort of a global economic competition. And that gets very much tied up with rankings. Indeed, of those universities, for example, in the Times rankings, those ones that are producing most patents, I think you'd find within the top 5 or 6 California, Stanford and MIT, which is up there with UBC in terms of the number of patents. And so you sort of see how these rankings become, these various rankings rather well, become sort of proxies for universities judging themselves, advertising themselves to the government, to the public, but also to students as a place that is making a significant contribution and would be a worthwhile institution to attend to, particularly as the competition for international students increases.